that one is longer.
So that makes the other one shorter?
Okay, just want to clarify. No, the reasons you would pick one over the other, because everything from here down is exactly the same. So the tool is basically the same. You just have this built-in extension. And when you're using these, the short neck naturally, and if you watch people using it, they tend to do it with one hand, sometimes holding the head with the other hand, but this can be your one-handed tool, especially if you're working overhead, like doing big things. If you're working on little areas, you can actually one-hand it everywhere. The long neck gives you a further extension into crevices or wheelbarrows or things where you need to get into a tight area. That extension will get you there. And then also you naturally tend to hold this with two hands because it's long enough that you're gonna, when you put it in your hands, you just naturally grab it with both hands and start working. A couple things to know about this. This is a spindle lock. It locks the gear set here so that you can change adapters on the head of the tool. You don't want to press this while you're working. Smoke, noises. You kind of explode the gear set. It's not a good thing. Battery pack, the hybrid, it speaks to the power platform, so you have the ability to use battery, or you can run the tool corded. So that's what hybrid means. Hybrid means you have the flexibility to run it battery or corded. The name of the tool is actually Nano, although everybody calls it the hybrid. But they're going to get really confused when we launch other hybrid tools. When you're changing the movement of the tool, and there's three choices. You can have a large orbit, you can have a small orbit, or you can have rotary. And you do it by changing the adapter on the head of the tool. When you're changing the adapter, you want to make sure that you don't have a battery and you don't have the speed setting, because you can accidentally actuate this while you're changing things. Don't ask me how I know, but you'll explode the gears. Oh, that put a scratch on my car. I actually like to use the case that it comes in. I use this as a cradle, because when you're changing these adapters, you find that you wish you had a third hand. So the way to do this is it comes with this wrench here. We have the red adapter is the large orbit. So the green is on center axis rotary. Blue is 3mm, and this is used mostly for sanding. If you're polishing, it's probably best to use the larger orbit. You'll get the job done faster and better. So this will be slow polishing with the 3mm. But anyway, take the battery out, turn this off, put it in the cradle. You'll want to lock the spindle lock. Use this wrench, and you can feel it click down in. Do you hear that? So now the spindle is locked, and you can actually loosen it up this way. And now your adapter's out. And we can switch from random orbital to rotary. So again, you'll lock this spindle and you'll spin it right on finger tight. So you don't need to use the wrench. We gave you such a short wrench because in the beginning when we launched it, we had a long wrench and it was too much leverage, and we found people were stripping the gears. So now you're in rotary mode. Now the one thing to point out here is it comes with different diameter backing plates. 1 inch, 2 inch. 2 inch can be used with the orbits. Blue and the red, you can run 2 inch on this adapter. The 2 inch is not recommended for rotary. In fact, if you tried to put this backing plate on here, it wouldn't fit. And that's kind of our way to tell you, don't do this. Or you can take the shroud off if you want, like a lot of people do. They're like, oh, that didn't fit, so we'll take the shroud off and make it fit. Well, there's a reason why we don't want you to do this in rotary, and that is it puts too much side torque and you end up wearing the gears down. So it's not meant to be used with a big pad like this. If you scaled this up, it would be like a full-size rotary with a 20-inch pad, and you'd have problems with that too. And I would recommend 2 pads for the rotary mode. So the yellow, and then you can select either one of the liquids depending on what exactly you're doing with the rotary mode. Chances are with this size diameter you're going to be doing edge work. You're not going to be out here in the middle. You're probably doing edge work, so let's go ahead and run that pad. You start at a very low speed. The smaller the diameter is, the more you're going to throw product. So if you crank this all the way up to 5, you're just going to go like, I mean, I'll show you what it is. It's way too fast for this rotary, so we'll drop this down.
What speed are you running on?
1.
1? Okay.
Yeah. So because you're in rotary mode, you still want to have a good amount of arm speed like I'm doing right now. And give it your full 6 passes here.
What application would you run it at a higher speed? If you're starting at 1 with cutting with the microfiber, or wool, sorry.
When do I run that tool at high speed?
Or higher than 1.
See, sanding, I run it low. Probably the 12 millimeter orbit. But when would you run the Nano at settings 5 and 6?
12 mil.
12 mil
on
with,
the right
with the
spot
2-inch
on the
pad diameter. That's it. So
Yeah, the bigger one. Depending on the curve. Like, I mean, this panel's actually got an ideal curve for it like that. Even with the 1-inch, it's still going to stall quite a bit at lower speed, so it's going to need 5 to work it. Yeah.
I'll tell you a couple mistakes people make with this tool. They treat it like a full-size tool. And if you apply pressure, if your downward pressure is more than 50% compression of the foam, then that's too much. So with pressure, it goes over a smaller area, so you don't need that much pressure. And that really, like we said in the classroom, this is the best edge work you can possibly do. You can also do sanding and polishing on headlights. The question then becomes, do I have a swirl mark because I am using rotary? So does anybody know the answer? Yeah, any rotary is going to have a tendency to leave a swirl mark. So because we don't want that, we would switch to one of the orbital movements. I'm using the blue adapter, so this is the smaller orbit. And it's okay for this because the only defect I'm removing is what? A fine swirl mark, and it's going to be a very fine. So this is actually a perfect. It's a slow rotation, but it's enough. And then you should have swirl-free finish at that point. So those 2 steps right there get you swirl-free on any edge work.
What speed are we using on the yellow foam?
Approximately 4. But now the speed is going to vary. It'll be 4 on this, but if you're on a different edge or a different paint with different hardness, it could be another speed. Which reminds me, let me tell you, I'm going to tell you this again tomorrow, but just because you asked the question. Tool speed with an orbital movement, there's certain recommendations. Even our own team would give you a specific do this speed for certain things. But I'll tell you another approach to tool speed with an orbital movement. So it goes like this. The tool speed is the lowest speed on the dial that maintains pad rotation, which will be different with whatever pad you're using, it'll be different with whatever paint you have, it'll be different with whatever sanding marks or defects. But if you make that little bit of adjustment, So right now, do I have movement or rotation? A little bit. That's probably where I want to be right there. So on this particular situation, it's speed setting 4. That is the sweet spot on tool speed.
I find the Nano to be much more intuitive. Like you just know when you're using it and you're in a spot. It's because maybe because it's so small and you're concentrating so much, but I find it I kind of just naturally know what speed to put it on.
Yeah, and adjustments, you'll see it more readily. You'll know, you'll be able to visually see it. So if you have lots and lots of money, what you want to do is a tool for each movement, and then you don't have to change adapters.
All right, that wraps up day 1. We did sanding, which took the better part of the day, both hand and machine sanding. We did rotary, and we just did the Nano stuff using Nano for edge work. So tomorrow we'll start 9 a.m. and I'll bring the camera along and we'll capture tomorrow's stuff. A lot of stuff with DA and correction using dual action polishers. What happens when the force pulls you back, your foot naturally comes off the gas. You have to keep your foot to the floor, foot to the floor.